hatchet with Abby before Tom killed himself. He buried the hatchet with Abby after Abby went to jail and everything.
I don't know if that's totally true, Steve, because he was actually a little upset when we did that Abby Hoffman benefit. He didn't really say it because, you know, he praised me for doing it. And actually, in some ways, it was a dumb thing to do because, you know, the real diehards in the Abby crew never, ever made peace. They continued to try to, like, you know, foment, like, bad feelings. And all the time Abby was alive, he was kind of under pressure, you know, not to work with us, even though Tom, who was the ostensible reason he was mad at everybody, right, because he wouldn't, like, turn against Tom, right? Tom was dead, so there was no reason to continue it. But there's people to this day who say, you know, that we did this terrible thing when we brought up the issue of the drug war in the context of the Vietnam War protests. And I might point out that Vietnam is long gone as an issue, but we still have 1 million black men in this country who can't vote because of the drug war, so that some asshole like George W. Bush always wins the election, basically.
When was the first time you met Tom?
I met Tom at the rally on the Common in New Haven for Black Panthers. There was a group of Black Panthers up there that were indicted for the murder of Alex Rackley. And Chairman Bobby was indicted up there. And Tom showed up with his automobile that had been modified to put a rock and roll stage on top of it, which, you know, is in Medicine Ball Caravan of Love and Money. All that good stuff. But Tom, I don't know. Tom was kind of really ill-used by those people. He was, I think, really.
What was your impression?
A lot of people, like, you know, really wouldn't forgive him, and, you know, insisted on this sectarian bitterness. And
what was your take on when you first?
They still. I met like David Dillinger, right, in the '90s, around the protests in Chicago in '96, right, and he still was raving about Tom Forsyth being an agent. I said, man, don't you know that Tom Forsyth committed suicide? And that one of the reasons he committed suicide in 1978, he was depressed about this shit? And but he never really said he was sorry. He's an old man, very, very kind of inflexible. But that's life.
What was your impression of Tom when you first met him? Describe him.
Well, he was definitely not from New York. He was definitely a white hippie from out there, right? And there was this big, you know, there's a cultural divide between, actually the way you could put it is a cultural divide between the yippies who came from New York and the kids that were drawn out in the Midwest to protest with them. And both sides never successfully bridged that divide. Tom was definitely one of the kids from out there. You know, background with SDS. Guess he was a pot dealer before he, you know, if he was from Arizona, you know, and he smoked pot, you know, before he ever got to New York. And he came to New York because of that movie, Medicine Ball Caravan of Love and Money. And the person who somehow claimed to be responsible for that was a guy named Michael Foreman, who I recently had some problems with.
What happened to him?
Michael Foreman, he's being sought right now by the feds and the New York City Police for, I think, multiple credit card and internet fraud. He's just, you know, there was, the way Alice puts it was this, there was like two wings of the yippies, right? There was kind of like the entrepreneurial wing, like Tom, right? Who would go out and start something like High Times. And, you know, they usually were dabbling a little bit in the marijuana business. So it was very important for them to, you know, pay their money on time and keep their books straight and not cheat people, right? And then there was the other wing, which was kind of like the steal this book wing, right? Which was into like things like phone freaking and all kinds of scams and frauds and, you know, getting welfare. And there was actually always a potential like conflict between these two. Because what if the people who thought it was cool to rip people off ripped off the people dealing pot? Well, That wouldn't be too cool from, the standpoint of, say, a Tom Forsad, right? And the Michael Foreman was definitely from the thief faction.